What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Turn the Jets podcast. Little cold takes edition. My man Dalbin Osorio, staff writer for Turn on the Jets. We're going to talk Week 3 loss, preview Week 4. Dalbin, most importantly, how you doing tonight? How you hanging in there?
I'm good, man. I'm trying to get over the loss on Monday. I was over it pretty quickly. I was over it yesterday, and then today it came back up with like a bunch of articles that were released by the Beat. But I'm okay. I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. We were both in the building on Monday, and we were just talking about how cold we were, actually. It was surprisingly cold, but it was a frustrating loss, and we'll kind of get into it, and then we'll start, shifting the focus ahead to Detroit because it's Wednesday already, and, Giants are on tomorrow night, and then it's another week. These weeks start ripping by. So my thoughts on the Jets-Bears loss, and I think what we've seen in people breaking down this loss is that sort of a way people are falling back on it is that the Jets lost to the Bears because they don't have enough weapons on offense.
Right.
Nobody stepped up when Eric Decker went down. They were too weak in the secondary. They could not deal with the Bears' high aerial passing attack. That would sound like a sensible formula for how the Jets would lose to the Bears, knowing how the Bears' roster is structured, knowing about this matchup. But that's not really what happened. I could hear people's arguments for the Jets don't have enough weapons or they're weak in the secondary because there's some validity to many parts of that argument. But last night or Monday night wasn't the night for that argument because pretty simple. Eric Decker didn't play. He played a little bit. He had one catch for 15 yards, took himself out of the game. The next man up stepped up. Jeremy Curley had 7 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. The next guy up after that, let's say it's Greg Salles. He had 2 catches for 56 yards. He made a big play in the final drive. Jason Morrow, over 50 yards receiving, including a 40-yard game. Chris Ivory, 55 yards receiving, and ran the ball well. All in all, the Jets had over 400 yards of offense. They had They had 3 passing plays of 20 yards or longer. The Bears had 1. And the Jets gained over 400 yards of offense, like we said. And if you look at it side by side with the Bears, who have arguably the best skill position group in the NFL, the Bears went down. Their next guy step up, had 105 yards receiving, impressive, didn't get in the end zone. Their next receiver after that, Holmes, had 9 yards receiving. And Bennett had 54 yards receiving. Obviously, the big difference being that, he got in the end zone a couple times. But my point being is that the Jets' weapons weren't really the issue on Monday night. Their issue was turning the football over, directly handing points to the Chicago Bears, ending up on the bad side of a couple shaky calls. You never want to blame the officials for the loss. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're blaming the referees. But the Jets had 7 points taken off the board. Frustrating. And then if you factor in Darren Wall's pass interference down the sideline on the first drive, after a muff punt, another self-inflicted wound by the Jets, that hurt them as well. And beyond that, they gained 400 yards, but they couldn't convert in the red zone. So, you blame their woes in the red zone on their lack of offensive weapons. I think maybe that's part of it to an extent, but not when on the final drive, Jeremy Curley's wide open and Geno Smith just misses him.
Right.
Or when you have 3rd and goal from the 2-yard line and you run QB draw for a 2-yard loss when Chris Ivory's ripping off 4.5 yards to carry. So my criticism for the personnel will pick up when the Jets are being blown off the field by teams who are really superior talented than them. Like we saw last year against Tennessee, Cincinnati. Not saying Tennessee was superior, talented. They were just getting blown out. The Jets are outgaining teams. They're just making 2 or 3 stupid mistakes a game that are killing them. They lost them too because they put in an injured D. Milner over a healthy Darren Walls, and Milner picked on up and down the field. And they had a touchdown taken off the board because of poor sideline management. They lost last week because Geno Smith gift wrapped 7 points to the Bears, and they had another touchdown taken off the board on what should have been a fumble return for a touchdown. And Smith threw away more points on another red zone interception. So the Bears came out and threw for over 200 yards. They had 197 total yards passing. Not all that awful for a Jets secondary that's supposed to be the worst in the NFL.
Right.
Then I could hear that argument a little more. And there may be a time that argument makes a lot more sense. Maybe it's when they play Denver. Maybe it's when they play San Diego. But last week, I don't want to hear it. I don't know why 7 catches for 81 yards isn't good enough for the next guy after your top receiver. I mean, if the Jets signed James Jones and he did that, everyone would be thrilled, saying, hey, thank God we signed James Jones so he can produce when our top guy goes down. Right. And then people say, well, after Decker and Curley, there's nobody. Well, take away the top 2 receivers on every NFL.
Right.
What the chart looks like. I mean, Who are the Bills receivers if you take away Sammy Watkins and Robert Woods? Who are the Patriots receivers? You take away Edelman, and I don't even know who, Amendola. Who are most teams' receivers when you take away the top two?
Right.
That's my rant. I'm out of breath. What were you? Who are the culprits? What were you most frustrated about for Monday?
Well, first to answer even your question, look opposite of the sideline and look on Chicago. If Marshall and Jeffrey both go down, their starters are Santonio Holmes, and I have no idea who their fourth receiver is. Like, that's how bad they would be. It's Santonio Holmes and some other guy, some no name. So that's one. Two, and I said this that night, Geno played. He completed over 60% of his passes, threw for over 300 yards, right? So that should be good enough to win. But he threw an interception in the red zone. He threw it up for David Nelson, his 6'5" receiver. Kyle Fuller made a very good play on it. Kyle Fuller, again, made another play, same thing he did against San Francisco the week before. He made a play on the ball, intercepted it, foolishly brought it out. The screen pass, I was more mad at that because that looked like a rookie mistake.
Like a Mark Sanchez pass.
Yeah, it looked like very much a Mark Sanchez pass, and I find more fault with that than I do with the red zone interception. I blame Marty, man, and I said it in the roundtable today. When it was 1st and 5 and you can still get a first down on the last drive, I'm giving it to Chris Ivory 4 straight times. Just lining up. Yeah, like just lining up 3 tight ends, lining up with Bohannon and Ivory in the backfield, and I'm handing it off to him because either Ivory's going to get 2 yards, because that's the thing. Like we said this maybe last week. If you take away the 71-yard touchdown run, like his numbers before last week were like 3.3 yards a carry. But the man is averaging 5.7 yards a carry. He was gashing the Bears for 4.5 every time. So I would have ran it with him. I mean, I blame Marty. I blame Geno to an extent because he missed Curly wide open in the end zone. And, I mean, there was nobody around Curly. And even if, like, let's say Curly's not the guy he throws it to, there was space for him to get 5 yards on a scramble and just go out of bounds and keep the play alive. So he made mistakes that he hadn't made the first 2 games. And it's one of those things, like I look at the game against Green Bay, he spotted the defense an 18-point lead. The defense needs to hold that. And it's mind-boggling to me when I hear people say, like, oh, well, that shouldn't have been enough against Aaron Rodgers. This is a Rex Ryan coach defense. It's the backbone of this team. When is an 18-point lead not enough for a Rex Ryan defense? And so I don't buy that. Jeffrey had a really good game, but that was about it. Marshall was helped, I think, 1 catch total. Bennett had 50 yards receiving. Forte did nothing. Forte did absolutely nothing in the passing game and in the running game. And the Jets, Jay Cutler coming into this game was only hit on 21% of his dropbacks, on 7% of his dropbacks. The Jets hit him 21% of the dropbacks he was hit by one of the defensive linemen. The Jets had enough talent to win that game. I agree with you. I think that's a valid argument if Peyton Manning comes in and blows them right off the field and hangs 56 on them, right? I think that's a valid argument. But they're not getting blown out. This isn't when Cincinnati dropped 40 on them last year. It's not like that. The games are so much closer now because the talent level has risen. And I said this last week. It's always funny to me to hear like, oh, well, we don't have any talent. Oh, man, but we should have beaten Green Bay and Chicago. That means that you think that Idzik built a good enough team that they can beat those teams, because it can't be that, oh, we have no talent, but we should have beaten them. So those are the things that bug me the most. But for Monday, the culprit, it's Marty and it's Geno's play, and I think those 2 things go hand in hand. If Marty calls maybe one more run for Chris Ivory or 2 more runs for Chris Ivory, we're looking at a team that's probably 2-1 going into Sunday.
Yeah, and Marty Way's issues as a play caller in the red zone are not new. If you ask any Eagles fan, you ask our guy Mike Nolan, who's a big Eagles fan, this has been a long-running issue with Morning Way where he tries to get a little too creative or a little too cute in the red zone, and saying it's because he's getting too cute or too creative because he just doesn't have enough weapons. That's just not the case, because based on his history, when he had plenty of weapons in Philadelphia, this was still an issue for Morning Way.
Right.
Getting too cute, getting too creative. And so if I go out next week and I see the Jets get into the red zone 5 times and Morning Way is handing the ball to Chris Ivory and he's using his 3 tight ends who are all 6'4" or taller, and the Jets still can't score any touchdowns, then it looks a lot more like a personnel problem.
Right.
But until then, when I'm seeing Geno running a power behind pulling Brian Winters when it seemed like the entire Bears defense knew it was coming and they're losing 2 yards.
Right.
Geno he designed the play that got Curly wide open and Geno just missed him. That's a mistake on the field. I'm not defaulting back to the personnel issues yet.
Right.
If the Jets lost to the Bears and they put up 6 points and they only gained 200 yards and Curly had targeted 9 times, had 3 catches for 20 yards.
Right.
Feel a little more, but I agree with you. The play calling was frustrating, and the coaching has been frustrating at times throughout the past 2 weeks. I think it was a little more on Rex in week 2 with sticking with the high looks, as Connor pointed out in his article, and the mismanagement on the sideline, which really in practice isn't Rex's fault, but he's always going to get the blame as that in the head coach. And on Monday it was frustrating to watch the play calling, and at the same time, it's very difficult to be down 14-0 in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
Punch to your entire roster. Handing a team 7 points on a screen pass like that, and then muffing a punt and giving them inside the 50, it's very tough. The Jets were down 14-0 with 10 minutes to go in the first quarter. The rest of the game, they outscored Chicago 19-13, but when you're in a hole like that, you're making it very hard on yourself. So now going forward, right? So 1 and 2, I think, from my perspective, I said they were going to be 4-4 halfway through the break. How they get to 4-4 is you beat Detroit at home, you beat Buffalo at home in Week 8, and you find a way to upset either San Diego, Denver, or New England. The Jets will be 7 to 9 point underdogs in all 3 of those games. They're going to have to find a way to upset one of them and take care of business at home against Detroit and Buffalo if they want to be 4-4 and then be in position to make a second-half run. I don't think anybody's running away with the AFC East, running away with playoff spots in the AFC.
Right.
And I hate to say must win in Week 4 because it's so early, just like it's early after Week 3, but they're really putting themselves with their backs against the wall. They're going to San Diego 1-3, and I'm assuming if they lose next week against Detroit, it's because Geno probably didn't play that well, and we're not at the point yet where it's time to be on the Mike Vick card.
Right.
But if he has another bad performance, that heat's going to be turned all the way up heading into a difficult place to play in San Diego, a place where they beat Seattle pretty handily a couple weeks ago.
Right.
When you look at this matchup against Detroit, what are reasons to maybe feel optimistic about it, and why is it reasonable to think the Jets could beat Detroit at home when they weren't able to beat Chicago at home only a couple nights ago?
Well, so Detroit is built similarly to Chicago in the sense that, you said that there's probably not another team in the NFL that has a better group of skill position players than Chicago. Detroit's right up there, though, with Stafford and Reggie Bush and Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate, who's severely underrated. I know we pushed for the Jets to sign him in the offseason. He's just a really good wide receiver. But the one thing that Stafford is still prone to, that it seems like Cutler's not under Trestman, is the saving grace where you kind of just throw it up and think your guy's going to make a play. Cutler doesn't do that as much under Mark Trestman as he did before. Stafford still does that. And even last week against Green Bay, Stafford didn't play all that well. It's just that their defense stepped up and held Rodgers to 7 points, and their defense really won that game for them. Stafford turned the ball over twice. And the fact that the Bears' O-line, which was much maligned over the last 2 years, is now very much improved. Detroit's isn't, because Stafford got hit a lot last week too, and he got hit by Carolina a lot as well. So I think the Jets, it's the same formula. It's run the ball, get to Stafford enough. I don't think, because Calvin Johnson came out today and he said, I'm looking forward for them to play me one-on-one. Rex said it, he's not that dumb. He's not going to play him one-on-one. And I wouldn't expect him to do that. He's not the Giants. He's not going to leave his corner on an island and just hope that Antonio Allen can cover him. So I think the Rex is going to come up with a plan to take away a lot of the stuff that Megatron does and hope that somebody else beats them. Hope that Golden Tate or Ebron or somebody else beats them. I don't think he lets Calvin Johnson beat them. And I think you got to trust that Rex comes with a legit defensive plan on Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Rex schemes to kind of roll coverage towards Johnson. Obviously, he's never a guy you could leave one-on-one. Even a guy leaving 2 guys on him could be scary at times.
Right.
And, the problem with the matchup with Detroit is that they have a very good defensive line that's probably going to be able to take advantage of the Jets' guards, which is their weak spot in the offensive line, particularly Brian Winters in pass protection. What is encouraging about the matchup is that you look at the Lions' 3 games. They beat the Giants at home. They beat the Packers at home in an impressive manner, although Stafford didn't play that well.
Right.
One loss in Carolina, and Carolina's a team who's built pretty similar to the Jets. Very similar. Very strong front seven. Not a lot of names in the secondary. That's considered their weak spot of their defense. Mobile quarterback who runs around a little bit, although Cam is obviously a couple steps above Geno. Not a big name receiving group, similar to what the Jets have without Decker, and they're going to run the ball with a deep group of running backs. So it's kind of a similar team.
Right.
And Detroit went there in week 2 and got beat pretty handily. So you would hope that, the Jets in that same way could kind of, match up and, find a way to, play a little physical and play smart. They have to play smart. If they play smart, they should be able to get to 2-2. And then, you go to San Diego and you take it from there. But this is a game they have to find a way to win. In a game they just have to protect the football and avoid not beating themselves.
Right.
Actually, I just want an interesting tweet going on, or Twitter discussion going on. So Damian Harrison just tweeted, can't understand why your bio says diehard Jets fan and you were filled with negative comments instead of showing support. Just because you watch the games and complain about what you don't understand doesn't make you diehard. I mean, pretty well. Just tweeted, Snacks just described 90% of fans, not just Jet fans, but fans in general. Pretty interesting quote from Nick Snacks.
Yeah. I mean, he's right though. He's and I mean, we had to kind of had this conversation. Just like it's that whole same old Jets mentality. Like it's one of those things like where everybody anticipates that we'll find new ways to lose, and I'd be fine with that if like this was like 2011, right? Where even like the last 3 games of the 2011 season and then into the 2012 season, like those were, I guess, typical same old Jet seasons, and I'm using air quotes. But this season isn't like that. Like, it's not a team that's losing by mythical God suddenly taking a field goal attempt and making it go wide right because the wind pushed it that way, or a fumble magically ending up in a defensive player's hands, or a fake spike, or things like. It's not these things. It's them. And Mo Wilkerson said it today, and I think he nailed it. The Jets are very close to being 3-0. They're like a couple of things break here and there. They could easily be 3-0. We could be talking about a team that's 3-0, but we're talking about a team that's 1-2. Winning changes the conversation. They need to go out there and beat Detroit in a way to change the conversation, because now the conversation is that it's true what he says. Like, people are going to look at it and say, oh, well, Geno should have thrown it to Curley, and I agree with you. He was wide open, right? But we don't know what Geno saw. It's possible Geno didn't see him. It's very possible. I know we don't pretend to know everything, but I think the negativity is what gets grating, especially for the players. When you see people constantly saying, oh, well, look, they'll never get it done in my lifetime and things like that. The Jets have been one of the more successful teams in the NFL the last 15 years. I think you ran it in one of your articles where they have more playoff appearances than Miami over the last 15 years, more than Buffalo, have a higher winning percentage. Under Rex Ryan, they have more wins under Rex Ryan than the Giants do under Tom Coughlin in the last almost 5.25 years. So it's frustrating to read like all of that, like, oh, well, the Jets are trash and look at this and look at that. That negativity gets grating. And I get into an argument on Twitter about it all the time because it's ridiculously frustrating. Like, you can root for however you're going to root for, but the constant negativity, that gets annoying.
Yeah, I mean, my feelings on this, and I've tweeted this a few times, I've written about it. I'm not interested in blaming losses in September of 2014 on things that happened 20, 30, 40 years ago. They don't have anything to do with what's going on this season. Even things that happened 5, 6 years ago, nothing to do with what's going on this season. And I don't follow the team in this kind of pit of misery and that, oh, woe is me, I'm a Jets fan, we're never going to win, only bad things happen to us. Maybe it's because I'm 27, and in the last 15 years, the Jets have probably been one of the 9 to 10 most successful NFL franchises, just in terms of wins, playoff appearances, being in 3 AFC championship games. That's what I've seen. I wasn't there through the 70s. I wasn't there through some of the bad times in the 80s. Although the Jets had, a handful of run in the 80s. For me, I'm not going to cover the team through a lens that everything is related to this big pit of misery.
Right.
AIDS and woe is me, bad things happen to me. And I'm also not going to be somebody, and I was talking to Chris Nimbley about this yesterday, a Race for Jets Insider. I'm sure this happens with other fan bases, but the amount of people who are Jet fans who almost seem to root for that misery and are encouraged by it. I feel like there's people out there who would rather watch the game on Sunday, and when Jason Morrow drops a pass, 70-10 tweets, I told you Jason Morrow's a bust, this entire draft class is a bust, it's terrible. Then when he catches a 43-yard pass, their account goes silent. Or the Jets win, their account goes silent. When they lose, 27 negative tweets, fire everybody, Idzik's trash, Wretch's trash, Geno's trash. I mean, you want to watch the team that way, that's fine. That's not how we're going to cover the team. We're not going to write like that Jason Keetle guy from CBS. Right. So look at me every 7 days because he's going to try to get attention by trolling Jet fans, but it gets frustrating and it gets grating, and I could only imagine. We complain about this like SOJ, same old Jet fans, and
Right.
imagine the amount of times that our Jet players get tweeted at from stuff like
Yeah, absolutely.
At the facility on Tuesday, we were filming a couple videos. They were saying that people like call the building the day after the game to complain, which to me is like, it's like, could you imagine like calling the game? You just like do this, like they're taking like personnel advice from people calling in. It's like it is insane, and it's an interesting tweet from Harrison. And like I said, man, we don't buy into that like same old Jet stuff. Like we're just talking about in 2014 and maybe 2015 or maybe a little last year, but 5, 10, 15, 25 years ago, that doesn't have to do with why Geno Smith threw a couple interceptions.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right, and I agree with you 1,000%. I think that like when you I think that's insulting to somebody's fandom to say, oh well, I saw when Art Toon dropped a touchdown pass against the Bengals in '79 or whatever the case may be, so I know more about it than you do. I think that's insulting because there are a lot of young fans who they started becoming fans. They're younger than we are, maybe 21, 20, 19, 18, who liked the team when Rex came. Right, and so they liked his bravado, and they liked the fact that, and they hated the Patriots because remember, like like towards 2009, 2010, there was a lot of Patriot fatigue. A lot of people didn't want to see them succeed, so they gravitated towards the Jets because the Jets were the ones that weren't going to be willing to be pushed around. And so I think one, that's insulting to their fandom. And two, I could never watch like that. I think a lot of people would rather the team fail in order to satisfy their own narratives. And like, for example, like if I had said that Geno was going to be a terrible quarterback, I'm going to root for him to be a terrible quarterback because I care more about being right than seeing the Jets win. And I could never root like that. I could never root like that. The team has given me too many good memories. Like, yeah, sure, there's been frustrating losses. Losing to Pittsburgh in the AFC title game, that was frustrating. Doug Bryan missing the field goal in 2004, that was frustrating. Losing to Denver in '98, that was frustrating. But there's been so much more good than bad that came from it that I could never see myself writing at it from that angle. So that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, good points, man. I definitely agree. It'll be interesting. It was very similar to last year when they were a very weak team. They would win one week and people, go silent, and they lose. Everyone's back on piling off on the bandwagon, off the bandwagon. Regardless, final thoughts on Detroit. What's your prediction for Sunday? Just quick. How are you feeling about the game? Do you think the Jets are going to be 2-2 going out to San Diego for Week 5?
Yeah, and I'll make it twofold. I think they'll be 3-2 after they go out to San Diego. I think Rex always tends to coach well against Phillip Rivers. I don't think he's beaten him once yet. So yeah, I think the Jets will be 2-2 on Sunday. I think Stafford throws 2 interceptions. I think Geno plays a relatively turnover-free game. And honestly, I think you're going to see an overabundance of reliance on Chris Ivory, similar to the New Orleans game. I think you're looking at like 30, 35 carries. I think it's going to be a lot of Chris Ivory. I think there's going to be the temptation to kind of get away from it when it doesn't work right away. But I think you're going to see a lot of that. And I think the Jets go to 2-2 on Sunday.
Yeah, I picked the Jets to beat Oakland. They did. I picked them to lose to Green Bay. And they did. Then I picked them to beat Chicago, and they didn't. So it's hard sometimes to now pick them to win again. But I do think, I don't want to say their backs are against the wall, but it's inching a little bit towards that. And I think that they're just due to play a cleaner game, just, out of a law of averages and from a mathematical perspective with these turnovers and with calls going against them. It just feels like they're kind of due to play a cleaner game. And I do agree about the overcompensation for Ivory. I think there was a game last year where he had like 6 carries, and the following week he had like 34 carries. So you may see a situation like that, but I think it will be a relatively low-scoring game.
Yeah.
They'll play a lot cleaner, and I think they'll find a way to win. And then, they'll head into that 3-game stretch, and we'll see what happens. It's funny that you mentioned that about San Diego because they're a different team right now than the other times when Rex beat them, but still, you always just think of Rex coaching against Rivers, and is that really that brutal of a matchup? It's always just haven't played well on the West Coast in the Rex. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's hope they actually get to 2-2.
Absolutely.
Tonight, man.
Absolutely.
And, guys, stay with us on our YouTube channel. We're going to be giving away tickets to Jets Lions.
That's right.
And we'll be giving away plenty of other stuff throughout the year, like this awesome signed Jeremy Curley football, maybe next week. Thanks to our friends at NRG Energy for continuing to hook us up. Maybe I'll just hang on to the curly tail.
since nobody likes him. Shout out to NRG Energy too. So when we were at the game on Monday, they were giving out sunglasses and they were letting like people, they were painting like fans' faces. So that was actually pretty cool. So shout out to them for their work on Monday.
All right, keep the sunglasses coming, NRG. We're signing off. We'll be on the site, writing, tweeting, and hopefully not getting frustrated again. Everybody have a good night, and football is back tomorrow, baby.
That's right.